You're listening to The Sister Trill with Danae and Kiveli.
Hi everybody and welcome back to The Sister Trill. I'm Kiveli.
And I'm Danae.
And today's episode is going to be about something that we have often discussed. It's kind of difficult, I think, to put it into one sentence, but basically we're going to talk about the pros and cons of indulging and how to kind of indulge in a responsible way, if there is a responsible way to indulge, something that we often find ourselves talking about a lot. But before, let's first start with what we disagreed on this week. And actually, I had one thing that is, I don't know whether it's more of it's not that much a disagreement, but more something that we weren't like automatically thinking about the same way that actually had to do with me. You then encouraged me. Basically, I was contemplating going out on a date this week, and I was a bit. Because it was with someone that I hadn't previously met, which is not something that I usually do or generally tend to do, because I don't know. It's just not something I gravitate towards as an experience. I prefer like things to happen in a natural way, for me to meet people naturally, and also. I was unsure about this particular person because it just didn't have enough information, as it is with these online things. So I was like more, maybe I just shouldn't even do it, and I wasn't really sure whether I wanted to do it. And you were, no, just go for the experience, try it out. Yeah. So I did obviously do it, and I definitely did not regret going on that date. So it was kind of a disagreement. I don't know if it's a disagreement or not, but definitely.
Yeah, we had a discussion about it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I followed your advice.
Well, I'm very glad that you enjoyed it.
So
I don't have what we disagreed on this week. No, I mean, we talked about it briefly before turning the camera on, and I tried to think of one, but I really don't have one. We were very much in agreement. Also, I think because we had some bigger discussions last week,
true.
And that's what usually happens after we've had bigger discussions and really reached this new common ground. We're usually pretty close and kind of agreeing on everything.
Yes.
Also, like our antennas are out and trying to make it right. We didn't really have a disagreement.
No. But exactly. The last 2 weeks we had like some really like important ones. So now it's like all
very chill.
Very calm and peaceful again. Yeah.
For this week.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get into this episode. So first of all, I was thinking that maybe we should explain a bit what we mean with indulging, because obviously like you can indulge in a good book, and it's not exactly the type of indulgence we're talking about. It's more like indulgences that like give you pleasure and that are geared towards instant gratification, like things that it's not like you indulge in something that actually has a long-term benefit, but it's very much about like instant pleasure, instant sense of, dopamine rush or something like that.
Yeah, I very much think of this term work hard, play hard when we talk about indulging. It's this type of indulgence that after work you just let loose.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's not also just after work let loose, but it's also like, we often, when we talk about this, and we're going to get into this later in the episode, is like the value of indulging.
Yeah.
Because I think that indulgence has, I would say, this type of like instant gratification has a very, I would say, negative reputation. Rightfully so, because most people obviously, in terms of like the balance between instant and delayed gratification, very often do not have that in balance very much, and very much tip towards instant gratification, which is why, I think society, when we talk about it, it's all about, how to develop discipline, how to develop tools to kind of, have good habits. But let's today, obviously, that is very important. Let's today try to like, really focus on the potential values or lack of values of instant gratification. So first I wanted to ask you do you think that you have a preferred mode of indulgence or something that you would say goes into that category for you?
Well, I think my number one way of doing that is one that I'm not very proud of, which is watching videos, be it on YouTube or be it on Netflix. But this is my number one thing.
Yeah.
If I have downtime, I'll just watch an episode or watch a video or more than one video, something like that.
I mean, I generally tend I would say is also when we always discuss it, it's always me also try to get you to indulge more.
Yeah.
So it's natural. I think I would have more different types of indulgences that obviously are all in different categories and come, with varying degrees of unnecessariness. And definitely the video one is the big one for me as well.
Yeah.
Like as soon as for me, it's more
for most
I'll
people
watch a
nowadays.
podcast, or I'll watch a debate, or I'll watch
Yeah.
something, which is like kind of, I would say there are videos that I watch that are more kind of have a benefit because it actually enhances my knowledge, or I'm actually, getting like some intellectual inspiration from it, like if it's a really good podcast or a really interesting debate about a topic I'm interested in. But of course, I've also fallen like multiple times, fallen down like the YouTube rabbit hole where you're just
Right.
watching things and at some point you don't even know, you're just clicking on and it's just like you've literally like tapped out of like control of what you're doing exactly. So that, but then I think I would say another huge level of indulgence that I prioritize or allow myself or almost find important, that I would say you don't have that much, is everything pertaining to seeing friends, having experiences with friends that are just, having fun, whether it is going out to a bar or going out to dance, clubbing, or just, making time to, after having practiced a bit, or, like really making an effort to create like a nice afternoon.
Yeah.
That definitely goes into the category of it just gives me pleasure in the moment. Obviously, like I'm maintaining friendships and everything, but it's something that I would say you do less. Like if you would
Yeah.
have a free afternoon, you might, like do something else that goes more into the discipline category.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. I definitely do it way less than you. I do it, and it is something that I enjoy, but I think that I wouldn't go that much out of my way to create this experience. If it kind of happens naturally, I'm happy
Yeah.
about it. If I don't have to put in too much effort, like, I don't know, maybe someone comes and visits
Yeah.
me or something like that,
Yeah.
or we're in a place where, the bar is next door, or a hotel bar, I'm just
Yeah,
saying
yeah,
like,
yeah,
things
yeah.
like that, things that are easier, then I really do enjoy it. But yeah, it's not something that is number one on my list to plan in
Yeah.
order to have a good time. I think I'd rather plan, for example, a movie night, with you or with my partner or something like this, at home. Of course, this is also me post kids, I want to say,
Yeah.
which is a very big difference. But because, going out just like that at night is not very realistic for me.
Yeah.
So post kids, I'd rather plan like a movie night, and which is something that I really love doing, which is very different from watching videos on YouTube.
Yes,
actually
yeah,
picking
yeah.
a movie
Yeah,
or
yeah.
something like that. I really enjoy, but me pre-kids, very much. Did enjoy this whole meeting up, and I also did it a lot. Just meet up with people, go out. Very different from how it is now, but I think that's often.
But
the
generally,
case.
I mean, I remember, that's also what always introduced our, I would say, conversations, is also way back when I started traveling in the beginning. And obviously in those travels, it was a payoff. Like I would practice less or sometimes even not at all during those travels, like 5 days somewhere or something like that. And you would always be a bit skeptical of that move. You were a bit like, yeah, you sure? Maybe you should,
Yeah.
or maybe find a way to practice better during the travels or something. And I always felt that these types of, let's call them indulgences, are actually an appropriate way to balance out the rest of our rather disciplined and I would say well organized life.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that I really see the value of for as long as it's not more than the delayed gratification, more than the discipline. I always found that to be important almost.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, for example, if you take traveling as a whole concept of indulging, I think that this is something that I've definitely come to learn over the years. Because I remember very well how I planned my first travel with my first boyfriend to Amsterdam. We had this trip, I think we were there for 5 days. And I remember that I planned the place where I was going to practice. I rented, this is like a place where you can rent practice rooms. And I rented practice rooms for like 2-3 hours every day.
Yeah.
And it really calmed me down so much that I had that. And I loved it. I mean, we had an amazing time there. But of course, now I would also be fine, with just going there. And 5 days maybe is actually quite depending on, what's coming after. But for 2-3 days, obviously, traveling somewhere and just not practicing.
Yeah.
But this is something that definitely was a process for me.
So definitely, I would say that we've had opposite experiences. I mean, mine, I would say, is the more common experience nowadays where you naturally gravitate to wanting to indulge in many different ways, and then you monitor that and then create a balance by focusing on being more disciplined, being more, like focusing more on delayed gratification and sacrificing instant gratification for delayed gratification, and now having kind of a balance. And yours was I would say, much more uncommon. But interesting enough, we come from a family of very disciplined people.
That's
so
true.
I felt that mine was the exception, although I realized that it's not. Because you came from, I would say, naturally gravitating to too much discipline and too much kind of not letting yourself enjoy some freedoms and having to teach yourself to enjoy the freedoms.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So that's interesting. So before we talk about why, in my opinion at least, it's important to have these indulgences, do you have a way of like monitoring yourself, like when a bad habit creeps in, when you get too, attached to one indulgence? Are you, do you catch these things when they're quite early? Do you kind of have strategies to not fall into these bad habits, or then, create a good habit out of a bad one?
I mean, as you already said before, my danger is not so much falling into the indulgence. So I don't think I've ever really fallen into an indulgence too much. The only thing that I can now spontaneously think of, except for, of course, the video thing that I mentioned.
Yeah.
This definitely, there are times where I've fallen into it too much, but I think this is also kind of a symbol of our time. I think everyone is, in a way, addicted to their phone and everything that's connected to that, and it is a problem. I don't want to downplay it, but this I've actually have found a way of monitoring it in a way that, for example, if I'm practicing in a very focused way or something that is important to me, I put my phone away and I try not to be distracted by it, things like that. Or if I want to do an effective hour of office work or emails, I put my phone away, because otherwise I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to click on a video and listen to the podcast in the background or something like that.
Yeah.
So these things. And then the other thing I can think of, but it's also kind of ridiculous even saying it, is maybe the thing that I indulge in a bit too much is sugar. But it's really on such a minimal level. But it's something that I realized that if I had zero antennas in my head, but again, I mean, I'm so far away from that danger, but could maybe...
is there like any way where you could always say that what you indulge in sometimes is work? Because many times I've had the feeling that the more the more pressure you feel, the more stressed you are. Or
I mean, I do get more stressed, of course.
Yeah, no, but it's like I almost get the feeling sometimes that you work not from a place of wanting to get things done, but from a place of feeling safe, wanting to feel safe.
I don't know if I would agree with that. I mean, especially in the recent years.
Okay, in the recent years, of course,
I've just had to work to get things done.
Of course, because of the kids. But I'm thinking, I remember that. I mean, I keep saying this one, when we talk about it, this one thing that we were still very young. We were maybe I was 13 and you were 17. And what had just started happening was this, having to reply to emails from concert organizers or sending programs or things like that. And of course I was 13, so for me I was not taking care of that aspect of it. And I remember that we'd finished practicing and I wanted to do something with you, and you were telling me Kiveli, I have so much I still have to do. I still have to reply to so many emails. And I'm just thinking to myself, you probably didn't have to reply to that many emails. It was probably 2 or something. But this idea of I know I have so much work and I think it appealed to you because you were always a very work-oriented person, which is where my whole theory came up, that in that time, me with those 2 emails would have begrudgingly replied those 2 emails and then finally be like, okay, now we can do something that's really gonna make us feel good, whatever that is, But you were just no, let's stretch out that email time,
Really? I mean, I don't know. It's an interesting perspective. I never saw it like that. Yeah, you might be right. I'm not sure, but I always felt like I just wanted to get it done because I definitely know that I had a bad feeling inside of me if I did not get it done. Then I couldn't enjoy anything. But if I wanted to stretch it out, I don't know. I feel like maybe I definitely, liked working and still like working. I like the feeling of being effective and productive. And maybe, I would create more tasks than there were. Like, for example, maybe I would also make a list of, things that I want to do, or order my scores, things that are not necessary. But I don't know if I would just make a task go longer just for the fun of it.
No. It's obviously the first thing, that you would kind of keep at it, like keep in the work, as if like working was more your safe space than having fun and indulging.
This
which is, I've always been very envious of that side of you. Obviously, I believe that there, like in terms of the balance, it was very important that in the last few years you did kind of find the balance towards the other direction of just also kind of letting go and not working as a coping mechanism in a way, But I was always very envious of the fact that, working and persevering and working also at things that not the work itself was, obviously practicing is a different type of work, but like that email work, that like, more administrative work that is not as inspiring or nice, that is just kind of sit down and you just have to get it done and have to do it, that it, you kind of felt just by virtue of that it's work, it already kind of fulfilled you. And I've always not liked that part of it.
I mean, I was also always the type of girl that got excited about a new school textbook.
Yeah, but me too.
Okay.
Me too. Okay. I was always that as well, because I've always been attracted to knowledge and I've always been very curious, right? But if it were like, I've never been able to like, get happiness of work that I know I don't like. You know what I mean? Like, for me, I really need to enjoy what I'm doing. Yeah. To you know what I mean? To get fulfillment off of it versus just, enjoying the fact that I'm working. But thank God I'm doing something that I really love. So it's all good. Like,
as we all should.
Yes. Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. So we're already kind of into it, but what would you say are the dangers of like obsessively denying yourself moments of pleasure?
Well, I mean, I think you can definitely get lost in the work so much if you totally deny yourself of any pleasure and then not get anything done despite always working. So I think the main danger is that you don't even reach your goal, although you think that you're doing everything.
Okay. Yeah, I understand what you mean. You mean like basically when your work quality.
Yeah, exactly.
Decreases
and
yeah, but I don't mean
you
work
lose
quality
your efficiency.
Right, yeah. But that's sort of what I mean. That obviously I totally get that. But what I mean is more, someone who is constantly just, living on the side of discipline, living a very like ascetic life, like no pleasures, no instant gratification, no. Because I mean, there is, the reason why I'm asking is because there's a very good argument to be made, especially as I said nowadays, that, all these things that give you instant pleasure and instant gratification are actually things that you're trying to avoid, that are bad habits, whether it is like eating chocolate or, even things like pornography are instant, which we had an episode on, or like, and give you instant gratification, going out and not sleeping well that night, even, something that we're not that much, attracted to, but alcohol and like drinking, like all these things go into a category that when usually people talk about them, it goes like, you should avoid it, don't,
of course,
right?
But I mean, at the same time, these are usually the things where life happens, when you go out, when you have a drink at a bar, or when you share a meal with friends. So, every memorable life experience happens in that type of a setting. And maybe not every single one, but many.
Exactly.
So it would be a very uninspired life but if you didn't do any of that.
Yeah, and I also have like another, I don't know, it's more of like an inkling or like a feeling about it, that someone who consistently kind of pushes, I mean, I find that, us as people, our natures, desire both type of experience, right? The experience that is fulfilling, gives you meaning, that's long-term, that is definitely the far more important experience, and you have to find this thing. But I feel that we also need these kind of spikes of, like spikes of inspiration, spikes of chaos, I could almost call them, like these things that don't necessarily bring you one step further to your long-term goal, but they kind of, as you said, life happens. And I feel that people that deny themselves that, number one, I would say are less balanced. Like you notice in them that they're somehow, in my opinion, less balanced, less of a well-rounded person. And also, I feel that there is a true threat that if you don't really honestly confront the fact that you might also need worldly, normal, pleasures, that it might get you in a different way, in a far more dysfunctional way, that it might creep in like dysfunctional, maybe slightly like violent behavior or something that, you need an outlet to let go, like to be irresponsible. And to
Although I do think that really depends on the person.
Not be irresponsible was the wrong way to put it. Not to be irresponsible, but to be to not have to think about the long-term discipline way.
No, but I think that is definitely true to a certain extent, but I think it depends on the person. I think that there definitely are people out there that don't need that really are at peace with their, what we would call very boring life, but that are at peace with their very simple life of doing their work, drinking their tea, doing whatever ritual they have and going to sleep. I think that some people actually cherish that.
Yeah, but that is if you would put indulge, like we obviously, because that's what our personalities are, put indulging very much in the category of like unexpected, unpredictable experiences, going out, seeking adventure, right? But there are other indulgences, like as we said, watching a video or shutting off, playing a game
if we talk about that. The things where life happens,
that's
which
of course
find
the other
so
type.
important.
Yes.
Which also for our job as artists, as musicians, we wouldn't be able to even do our job if we didn't have these experiences.
Absolutely.
This is how we make music. Our music reflects everything that we experience throughout the day in our life.
Yeah. I mean, I remember also like the conversations that we would have with both our teachers, because I mean there is this very weird like cliche about the musician that like just practices 8 hours a day every day as a child and
which is not
never
true.
experiences anything else. No, I mean there are cases, I'm sure,
as children,
but
I mean a grown-up musician.
No, obviously not. But I'm saying like that, as if that is kind of the desired path in order to in order to become as amazing as possible, and that totally neglects that there is the obviously technical artistry that requires a lot of practice. And I mean we are talking about daily practice anyway, but there is the so important part of becoming a well-rounded person with experiences to draw from, an emotional range that goes beyond the lighting in your basement and all these things. So, and exactly like if we take that as the metaphor, I see that exact same thing in life, that if you just do the, I would say, disciplined, organized thing, also I mean to like play devil's advocate a bit, even like to do the responsible thing all the time, you are going to miss out on so many things, the least of it being finding out who you are when you do something that is very extreme, and when you are on the edge, and I feel that most people, myself included, of course, need to focus on kind of keeping up the discipline side.
Yeah.
But for the people that are often, also the very conscientious people, as I said, we come from I say I come because you belong to that. I come from a family of very discipline-oriented people, to remember the value of kind of also letting go and indulging and choosing the more adventurous, less predictable path, or maybe also just less, conscientious path.
Yeah.
I would say.
I do want to add that I think that it does come in phases, that the phases of life play an important role, because just looking at my short life up to now, there is my youth phase, for example, which obviously was pretty wild. I'm thinking especially of my times in Salzburg when I lived alone, where I was, at times partying through the night, going to school, then going to university, then partying through the next night, things like that. So there's this phase. Then there is my study phase. Then there is my phase after the kids. And you know, these are all different phases.
Right.
And I also think, especially when you say, find out who you are and what makes you, you, I think that there is also something to be said about, I found that out in those years. I mean, I'm not speaking about me specifically. Generally, a person has found that out, and now they have reached a new level where they feel comfortable at. It doesn't mean that what worked for you 10 years ago needs to work for you now.
Yeah, yes. But I mean, there is obviously the type of indulgence or the type of path with which you let loose might be very different when you're like in your youth or in your teenage years, your first partying years, versus when you're, you know, later in your more responsible parent years. However, I would say that I also kind of picture it as like an energetic thing, right? Like when you're always like kind of following a very ordered, disciplined, well thought through, meaningful, like when you're in that realm, your energy is kind of, I would say, very moderated. You know, obviously it goes, if you're doing something fulfilling, it's on a very good level, but it goes kind of straight, you know? And when you do things that are more this instant gratification type of activities, your energy spikes in both directions. Obviously, it gives you sometimes, you know, a high because you're like, oh my God, I'm doing this amazing thing that I love and I'm really enjoying right now. And then inevitably, it's also going to give you a low because after that, you're going to feel either guilty for what you did or just, you know, you're going to have to catch up. And so you know, you're going to feel the low as well.
You can also get an energy spike from a success deriving from a conscientious action.
Yeah, but it's a very different type of energy spike. It's obviously the one that's more. Obviously that's the more. Obviously that is the one that's more desirable. It's like this meaningful one, and it's not a spike. It's more of like a crescendo towards it, and then that's like serotonin, right? Which is amazing and the most important thing. This is not like to say that it's equal to what I'm talking about, but I'm saying like it's also a bit of like, you know, this is order, right? You preparing for a concert very well, playing the concert well, getting that rush of serotonin, loving that experience, that is order. What I'm talking about represents chaos. It represents the more unpredictable thing, right? It is doing something that is not in that straightforward path, but it's what you said, it's where life happens. It's where, you know, you get to, where also, in my opinion, opportunity lies, you know? If like then, of course...
I think it's a bit difficult in our situation because our job is also kind of where life happens. You know, playing on stage with other people, rehearsing. You know, I think it is very comparable to going to a party and...
Of course.
But if you compare it to, let's say, an office job, and then you say this is, then of course
but
I agree with
within our, I would say, less ordered life, there are also elements of order and chaos, right? And I mean, for us, they just all happen at a, I would say, above average, less ordered way. You know what I mean? But it's, I would say that, you know, you can take that same example and say, yes, the office life is the order, but then already chaos would be changing your job, you know, like switching jobs or something like that, you know, because you don't like it or something like that. So I just think that many times, very rightfully so, this message of like try to avoid any experience that is not, you know, really good for your future is good advice because most people tend to do too many of those experiences. But I also think it's very important to stress that a balanced and fulfilled life, in my opinion, needs seeking out both type of experiences, you know?
But this is something that's very in right now, you know, this word work-life balance.
Right.
It's something that people are very much looking for. And, you know, not necessarily the 9 to 5, but, you know, there are all these books, the 4-hour work week.
Right,
things like that. So people are very much looking for that. Let's live our life more. Let's give meaning to our life.
Yes. But I mean, that is... in my, like when I listen to those things, it's also, it kind of puts a negative reputation on working. Like as if you basically just try to reduce work as much as possible to then go to a rave, you know what I mean? Which going to a rave sounds amazing. But I mean, that's not exactly what I mean, because I do think that you just have to obviously find something that you love.
Oh yeah, because we love our work.
Exactly. So, and then, you know, also consciously, because for example, when I think about you and your partner, right? Because I mean, that's where our conversations often start, right? I think about you two, and I think that like you don't even put, like when you plan your week or you plan your day or you decide what you want to do, it's the height of indulgence if, as you say, at the end of one day you watch a movie together. I mean, yesterday, what was it? You guys went to see the James Bond movie at the cinema, which I'm sure was his idea, by the way, because he loves James Bond. But I'm just saying that, and that was like, to me, I couldn't believe it.
You were like baffled.
You'd put on the agenda something like that, because like, especially now that we live together, but it already occurred to me when we were living together during the first lockdown. It's, I mean, literally every spare moment that, you know, obviously you don't have with the kids, and I understand that is a different vibe.
Because I already wanted to interrupt you there.
No, I know.
Because
it was the same before you had the kids.
Pre-kids, it was very different.
I can't say about him because I barely...
No, I mean in our life as a couple. I want to say.
Yeah, but again, that
The
is a very
indulgence
but
part.
it's a bad representation because of the fact that it was literally the first few months you were together.
Yeah, but
and
also-
therefore you were in this amazing let's experience
No,
things
but
together
still,
phase.
I mean, also, I'm talking about the few months before the birth of the kid and then the few months after the birth of the kid, which is totally a natural change. And it is
Yeah.
a difference of, going out every night,
Yeah.
eating out, going to movies, going actually to bars, going to dance, everything.
Right.
And then, of course, not doing that. And again, it's a phase. Which in
Totally.
a couple
But
of years is also going to change. Again.
Unlike him, I did know you for 26
Yeah.
years before you had kids, and it applied then as well. And I mean, for example, I also remember this one situation. I think it was actually the story I wanted to tell. Anyways, but I remember this one situation where you had to prepare for this one concert, and I had organized with some friends, it was way when we were still living in Hanover, to go swimming in the lake because it was summer. And I was telling you, like, you should come. And you were like, no, I really have to prepare and let me practice. And swimming to a lake, there's no point in going. And I was like, no, it's going to be nice. You're going to feel much better tomorrow. And you actually went. And I remember you said it was really worth it because it gave you so much more kind of positive energy practicing the next day. And it's this type of thing that I'm talking about.
Yeah, and I've had that. I think I've told you this story, but it's also the story I wanted to tell, but I'm just going to tell it right now as well. I had this other experience once. I was preparing a concert in a super last minute type of way. I was so behind. I mean, I really literally needed to practice all day, every day. And my boyfriend at the time said to me one day, look, you need to take a break now. We're going to do something. And we went to a friend and played games, and it was super fun. I mean, nothing special. But
just something.
An evening off. And the next day, I felt so much better. And I mean, this is what I mean when I say what is the danger, because this is when I was in danger, because I was in such a loop. I was just thinking, okay, I have to do it, that I forgot about everything, and I forgot about, taking a break actually helps you.
Yes, yeah.
So
yeah.
this I completely agree with, and I've had these two experiences, which you said, and the one that I just said, where I really was reminded of that.
Yeah.
And that's super important.
And this big lesson, this of the bigger time frame of phases, I would apply that to every single day. Of trying to kind of put in nuggets of this type of letting go.
Although, I mean, at the risk of sounding like a full-blown workaholic, I just want to say that to me personally, there is almost no better feeling than the feeling of the end of the day when you've been ultra productive and you know that you've managed to do so many things. I mean, in my case, it would be I've practiced well, I've replied to, 20 emails that I've been, not wanting to reply to for a long time. You've been
waiting for replies since you were 17.
Exactly. And maybe I've done, 2-3 phone calls. I've gotten so many things done. Maybe even I created a great new project. And then at the end of the day, I just feel such deep-seated happiness.
I get that.
And I feel at peace, and I feel proud of myself, and I'm happy, and that is a great feeling for me.
No, that is a great feeling for me too.
Okay.
I mean, that is no objection here.
Yeah, okay.
But I'm just placing that on an, I would say, slightly equal pedestal, that feeling, to a day where you got a lot done as well, as much as you had planned on, you really got stuff done, and then you went and did something that just gave you this other type of happiness.
No, completely agree. I mean, this work hard, play hard, love it.
And
I agree.
And I would say that if it that generally speaking, if you do as much as you had to in the day plus more constantly,
no, I agree.
It's also not the way to
you're
go.
Totally right. I agree with that.
Which is
the
balance.
issue for me is more if there's a day where you didn't get much done, or maybe
and
also
then you
nothing,
went and indulged,
and then this getting much done and then indulging. Totally agree with that.
Or getting averagely much done, right? I mean, obviously we're talking about, you would have gotten more done if you would have continued working instead of indulging in something, right?
But maybe less effective, and it doesn't make so much sense anymore.
I remember very well that when I just moved to Berlin, also because I was so excited to live in a city that I'd loved always and was so excited by that, and I'd started to I was in this phase where I had to prepare for some festivals, and I had just insane amount of repertoire to learn. And I remember that I was living, it was also during the year that those of you that heard the last episode are going to know about that I was living with 3 other people who were also young. So there was lots of potential for awesome experiences. And I remember during that phase, me kind of being inclined to be like, okay, now just for the next week, I'm just going to sit on the piano, do nothing else, and just practice. And then I was realizing in the first 2 days that I did that I wasn't practicing well. You know, I was practicing. I was spending lots of time at the piano, but I wasn't getting as much done as I wanted. I was becoming really frustrated. I was kind of also losing focus, ending up, by the way, doing like weird stuff on my phone because I was kind of obviously exhausted after concentrating for many hours. And it was just an all-around unsatisfying experience. And then I just thought to myself, you know what? You're going to spend the rest of the day doing something unproductive anyway. Go out, you know, and not like out drinking. I just went out to a restaurant to eat, you know, with friends, you know, just leave the house, you know, do something. That's what I mean by going out. And I did that. And from that point onwards, I understood like first of all, the 3-4 hours I practiced in the morning were incredible. I got so much more done than in the 3 days before. And then like the feeling of going out, coming back satiated, just happy, and then, you know, practicing the next day.
No, I love that.
Right.
I wholeheartedly agree. I agree about this also when you fill your day with something else, then you get more productive. Because I've also totally experienced that if I have the whole day to myself where I could theoretically practice for the whole day, I usually get less done than if I have an event planned in the afternoon and then I know I have to be productive now. And then I practice. I totally agree. And also, I love this thing that you said about going out of the house, getting out of the house. Yeah. Because to me, there is nothing better than, you know, like refreshing your mind outside. You know, this whole fresh air thing. Even if it's just for 10 minutes but, you know, just going out and breathing and seeing the sun for 2 seconds is very important. And I realized that ever since I was quite young. I remember even still in school, like 7th or 8th grade, I remember that before I had a test, I would always just go out.
Oh, okay.
And like go and just sit there and not, you know, I never like read and studied before the test, but, you know, just like sit there and be outside and breathe and then go and write it.
Nice. That's a nice one. But that's also, by the way, a bit what I mean with if you don't, I would say, consciously choose your indulgences or choose where you're going to not pursue the long-term thing, they're going to creep in a different way. I mean, for me, it was like a quite obvious one. Like I would spend more time at the piano and then in my whatever free time or in my 10 minutes break, or I would be on my phone watching pointless videos, you know, doing something that did not give me any satisfaction, but still was an indulgence that, you know, was more, you know, it didn't fulfill any purpose.
Totally been
there.
So
I feel that, you know, we need to consciously choose our indulgences for both, you know, short-term quality of work, but also quality of spare time. And then also, in my opinion, that's like more a theory, that long-term, it is going to catch up with you. If you constantly live this kind of, you know, ascetic life where you just always do what is quote unquote right, but obviously you should do what is right, but what is responsible, you know, that I feel is a not good long-term strategy to fulfill those goals that you're working so hard for.
But in my eyes, going out for dinner after your 4 hours of practice is what is right.
Yeah, you know? Absolutely. But I mean, it would go into the category of, you know...
But it is indulging.
Indulging, right? No, it's not effective. It's not... You could have practiced five more hours,
course.
You know what I mean? Like, it's not the thing that... Because, for example, I know also, we both know these type of people and musicians that are extremely ambitious, that, you know, literally plan out every moment of the day with something that has, you know, like something efficient, you know, like working out, practicing, reading a book, meditating, practicing again, recording something, sleep. You know what I mean? Which is I mean, to be honest, I am in awe of people that can pull that off and, you know, maintain happiness or maintain, you know, fulfillment. Yeah. I just think that also that is also born out of maybe a sense of fear to not be enough otherwise, that, you know, you are so ambitious and so conscientious because it's the only way you find that, you know, you can progress in life or something. So I feel that, you know, if you're really confident and if you're really balanced, then it's not really work hard, play hard. It's just work well, play well in a way, you know? Don't overdo either of them because then you're going to burn out.
Yeah.
But, you know, just be conscious of being really good at your work and pursuing it with fulfillment and discipline.
And there's nothing that I find more annoying than people who pretend to be, you know, busy all the time when there's actually like nothing that they're doing and they're just there, laptops open, you know, busy. I'm so busy, and you know there are kids running around. It's I find it really dysfunctional.
Yeah.
And some of the most successful people that I know are people that consciously, when the time is there to have a family gathering or a get together with friends, are there and are not there with their phone. Sorry, I have 7 business calls to make right now.
Exactly.
Even if they could actually have them.
They
just choose not to at that moment. I think that's very, very important.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. Yeah, and I think that brings it to a very good conclusion, kind of. And I mean, obviously, I think it's interesting because we agree on what the ideal scenario looks like.
I think what we didn't really touch on, but I don't know if this is maybe for a different episode, is ways of indulging, you know, amount of indulging.
Oh,
also,
no, I think we should touch upon it now.
Because, you know, there are some obvious things, alcohol,
Oh,
you know.
yeah.
But
things like that.
I don't know if this could, because this also falls already
into another one, into another long discussion.
Yeah, so I don't know maybe if this actually is for another episode.
No, but I think
we can maybe touch upon the fact that, for example, I'm someone who rarely drinks.
Right. No,
So,
I mean, rarely / not at all.
I mean, I don't like to say not at all because, I mean, first of all, it's not true. I do drink from time to time, and it's also not like I'm religiously against it. You know, it's not unheard of to see me with a drink.
Right. But I would say, like, I mean, I drink
also very little.
That's why it's like,
the average,
but I drink, I mean, I drink more often just because, for example, if I will go to a bar, I won't go out of my way to order a non-alcoholic drink.
Yeah.
Right? That which you might do.
Might, but not, you know, depending on my mood.
Yeah.
Right? But
I'm also like, I don't, it's not at all a priority of mine to feel the buzz of alcohol in any scenario in my life.
Yeah.
You know, like not at all.
No, I mean, I think that we wanted to actually do an episode on recreational substance use. So I think this actually falls into that episode. But just because we were speaking about indulging, maybe I just wanted to get it in there.
Yeah.
That to me, indulging should, and this is already also kind of what I'm going to say in the other episode, is something that should be created by yourself. For example, a night out dancing is, as you know, one of my favorite indulgences. Going out and just dancing my butt off. And to me, this is, in my mind, you know, an indulgence that I aspire to and that I love, compared to the indulgence where I just sit and drink and don't really do anything but just, you know, get hammered, which I find a questionable indulgence. But I mean, I know that there's so much more to be said.
I mean, obviously. It's interesting you would say that when you said that your one other indulgence could be sugar.
Yeah, of course, because this falls under the substance.
Right, yeah.
Absolutely.
Because...
and this is also one that, you know, I'm, as I said, I'm like not even remotely in danger of, but that I'm already aware of.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, obviously this is, because I mean, when we talk about this, there comes like so much more into it.
And I think that's going to be a long discussion.
Yeah, exactly. Pertaining to the value of certain recreational drugs or the potential benefits of engaging with them. The spiritual qualities attached to it and everything.
But maybe this...
But when it comes to like, but that is obviously not with indulgence. When it comes to like the indulging aspect of it, I agree with you, of course. You know, I also don't see the value of like alcohol indulgence, apart from the fact that it's maybe interesting at some point in your life to just out of curiosity experience how it is, you know?
Right.
Like there's always value in experiencing something once, if it's not too dangerous. Like I would not recommend to experience heroin once or something, or cocaine once. Like that's not necessarily needed. You know that it's not particularly good for you. But in all fairness, alcohol, we also know that is not very good for you. But it is like in less...
socially accepted.
Yes, and less harshly bad than, for example, heroin and cocaine. And there are ways to do it. There are almost like almost not bad at all.
Right.
You know, if you drink
Yeah.
a glass of wine at a reception, nothing is going to be bad.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah, of course,
You know
of
what
course.
I mean? So there are ways to do it that are not really harmful at all.
Yeah.
And obviously there are ways to do it that are extremely harmful, right?
Yeah.
So, but I'm saying, like, if you one time want to check out, I think that, you know, there is, because I feel that there is so much value in curiosity and in just the value of having an experience, no matter what the experience is. I would say that, you know, getting drunk once as a young person to whatever point where you don't forget
Which
stuff
I think
or anything.
probably almost everyone has done.
You haven't.
I mean, this almost.
Right,
Me
yeah.
excluded.
Right, but I'm saying, like, but like there is value in just having that experience once, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I had it once. I never had it again, you know. Like, I mean, like, I did it once.
Yeah.
I tried it.
Yeah.
And I was far too curious to not try it.
Yeah.
But you know, I obviously quite predictably realized that there is nothing nice to be felt from that, at least for me, obviously.
For you,
know?
yeah.
But
But I mean,
but I'm
the
saying that that's
reason-
the only value of it, you know.
No, the reason why I wanted to bring it up is just to say that when we are speaking about indulgence and the way that I'm, you know,
Yeah,
talking about
it's
it now, it's not related to
Substances.
It's very much related to things that actually make me happy, that make me feel good, you
Yeah.
know, in my body, in my heart, in my soul.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that some people would say alcohol makes me feel good in my soul, but I would think that's a dysfunctional relationship
Yeah,
to it.
yes, absolutely, yeah. Because I mean, obviously, these substances, they're addictive substances. You know, more.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, it's true. The substance part of it is a very interesting area.
Yeah.
I think it's also interesting that both of us, I don't think, never ever had dysfunctional relationships to like these typical substances. We never smoked. We never had a problem with alcohol. We were never big weed smokers. You know,
Not even little weed smoke.
no, yeah. So there were all these things, which is quite interesting. But like, because we often talk about that, like, you know, how can you instill that also in your children, you know,
Yeah.
to not have dysfunctional relationships to it. I think but by the way, if I may say so, I feel that a big reason why that is that way is because we grew up in a household where all of that was not taboo. I mean, smoking was taboo, maybe.
Smoking was very taboo.
But smoking is also something that I would say we had this amazing deal with our father, who had said that if we don't try smoking or smoke for that matter until we are 18 years old, at our 18th birthday, we're going to get, well, we did get 1,000 euros. Which
Yeah.
and he said quite rightfully so that the motivation behind is that, you know, most people that also try smoking for the first time, it's not an enjoyable experience. Many people start smoking because it's kind of a cool thing. You're like in a clique of people that all try it, and
it's just peer pressure.
Peer pressure. And if you can say, like, guys, actually, I'm not going to smoke because I'm going to get 1,000 euros when I'm 18. It's kind of like people say, okay, yeah, if that would be, I wouldn't smoke either.
Yeah, it's
you know?
a good reason.
It's
that
a good
doesn't make you
reason.
look like the loser of the group.
Exactly. And to be honest, like, I always love that incentive. I don't think I would have smoked without the incentive either.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
And also because we grew up in a very, like, smoking is bad conscience era. I feel like, you know, also in school and stuff.
Although, I mean, many of our
Yeah,
friends
you're
smoke.
right. Yeah,
many,
yeah.
Many musicians smoke.
Yes, yeah. But especially if we talk about alcohol and, like, also just the general attitude towards many other substances, they were not taboo. In a way that it's not like they were, drink how much you like, but it was never forbidden in a way that, you know, could create a dysfunctional
I mean,
attitude towards
yeah,
it.
but for me, I know why I never got into drinking. And that's because there were certain people very close to us that had a very dysfunctional relationship with alcohol. And that's absolutely what scared
it was a
me off.
deterrent for you.
I mean, as you know, I'm still nervous
Yeah.
about this.
No, I know.
And,
I know, yeah.
And for me, that was the number one reason.
I mean, for me, I know, of course, exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
But I think for me, it was so demystified for me. You know, alcohol was so demystified.
It was also demystified for me. It was tragically shocking for me.
Yeah. No, for me, it never turned to this, like, oh my God, I'm afraid of the second that, you know, alcohol influences my mind. Obviously, I stopped them because I'm not fond of, you know, like doing things that I otherwise wouldn't do because of alcohol, you know. But I've never felt like, you know, that apathetic towards it since.
I mean, I know that this is where it comes from, and it's because it was quite early on in my childhood, and because I was so directly confronted with it. And
do you know what I think it is? And this is already kind of like a bit of a teaser for the episode on substances and psychedelics and stuff like that. It's the fact that I don't blame the alcohol. I blame the person. You know, I the same way I don't blame.
And you're right.
You know, for me, it's not like, ooh, alcohol gets the worst of people. It's like, no, people are who they are. And of course, things can amplify better or worse natures.
No, and you're absolutely right. It's not, but still, I saw very consciously what the substance does in many different aspects, be it weight gain, be it, change of, change of demeanor, be it slurring your speech, be it being unconscious in the end, all of these things. And this is the pure substance.
Sure, yes, but I mean the reason why you turn to a substance like that, right? Because that does not fall into the category of indulgence anymore. It falls into the category of addiction, of course.
Starts as indulgence.
And does it though? Because for me, real indulgence has to do with something that generally, is born out of a happy feeling and ends with a happy feeling.
This is why I wanted to put this little thing.
Yeah.
Exactly. This is why I wanted to say that indulgence is not that.
Yeah,
when we talk about it, it's not.
Yeah.
And this whole discussion,
but for example, in terms of alcohol, drinking one glass of wine at the end of a day, for some people, could fall into like a functional indulgence. If it's just this one glass, it's because you like the taste, or I don't know, it's a glass of whiskey because you're a whiskey connoisseur, whatever, because then it's not about the effect of alcohol and the buzz or whatever. It's about the taste, it's about the vibe, it's whatever. It's about your thing.
Drinking one glass every night can have a continuation.
Obviously, I'm not talking about every night. I'm talking about when you also shouldn't indulge every night. In a substantial way. You shouldn't go out every night. The daily indulgence could be more like, allowing yourself to, I don't know, listen to a podcast that you really want to, or watch a video that you're into.
I think this is a good full circle moment that we should maybe stop at. And keep the other thoughts, which are also very interesting for the recreational drug use episode.
Yes, which is going to be a big one, because actually it's not a recreational drug use episode. The episode is going to be about psychedelics, which recreational drug use falls under, but it's actually a far bigger topic.
Episodes.
Are we doing 2 episodes?
I thought the psychedelics one was a separate one.
Okay.
Because you told me today that this doesn't fall under recreational drug use, but under therapeutic. So I thought that the recreational one was a different one.
No, I think we should combine.
We should combine
because obviously, it's what they're mistaken for.
Talking about substances nonstop.
It's what they're mistaken for.
Okay, then it's going to be 1 3-hour episode. Got it.
Or I think probably it's going to be a very long episode that we're going to cut into either one
part
or
part 2.
2, 3 parts.
But it's not going to be the next episode.
No, but I think it's coming soon. It's coming soon.
Yeah, it's coming soon.
It's going to be a big one. I think this is probably the biggest, I would say, general ongoing disagreement
between us
and life philosophy disagreement.
Not in a negative way, but just
because we both accept the other person's
difference in lifestyle.
Yeah.
For sure. It's gonna be fun.
It's gonna be interesting. I'm really looking forward to it. Yeah. But the next episode is first going to be about, I would say, also the way we started the podcast with the question that we're still asked many, many times, and now I think it's worth getting into in a bit more detail, which is the question of like, how do we handle being competitive with each other in the same fields?
Is there competition between us?
Exactly. So we're going to get into
really
that.
diving into that. Is there jealousy? How do we deal with the other person's successes, or maybe the other person getting an opportunity that we might wanted to have?
Yes.
All these juicy things.
Exactly. So we're going to talk about that next week. See you then. Lots of love. Bye.
You're listening to The Sister Drill with Danae and Kiveli.